And the open debate, I now call Stewart Stevenson to be followed by Jamie Halcrow-Johnson. Mr Stevenson's final speech in the chamber.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's always as well to get the applause in first, because it may not be so enthusiastic at the end. As I prepare for my departure from this place, I wonder in particular what issue I would wish to remain engaged with after I leave Parliament. But before I do that, I want to single out the official report for so masterfully converting some of my more obscure contributions into something approximating to readable English, and for being persuaded to accept the majority of my suggested changes to their drafts, especially accepting a new word created by Bruce Crawford and me, "cum snuggert," the noun for being overwhelmed by information. Not all my previous 852 speeches have been of equal intelligibility, and the people in the OR are the all but invisible heroes of our institution, and I give them my very heartfelt thanks. Now, clearly, as I've been campaigning for our country's independence since joining the SNP in November 1961, I'll remain on that issue. But independence is not an end in itself. It is about having the power to serve wider purposes. We're not entirely powerless on the subject of climate change, but we're allowed to be at the top table of decision makers only occasionally and at the whim of different ministers of the UK. The signs are good for COP26 in that regard, let me hasten to say. I was privileged to have led the UK team from time to time during international conferences such as the COP14, 15 and 17 that I attended. Colleagues have not always been as fortunate. Now, the update of our climate change plan that is the subject of today's debate is another example of our shared determination to leave the world fit for purpose for those who will live after we do. But the update is, of course, not the last word on the subject. The full plan must arrive in relatively early course. And the needs to describe the means to the end that we all, I believe, share and provide the resources for public agencies' contribution to delivering it. Two foci, I suggest, are particularly important. A just transition for those currently working in industries that contribute to global warming. Very important for the area I represent, where oil and gas is employing perhaps 20% of people who work there. But we have the skills and determination to be part of the vanguard to a new energy. We're already travelling that road as renewable energy has increased in importance. Government policy must support private enterprise to create the new jobs which will supplant the old. Secondly, we must play our part in delivering climate justice. We created the aridity, heat, flooding and storms which affect many who cannot afford to fix the problem. I think of farmers in Africa in particular, and that's a gender issue because many of the farmers most worst affected by that are female. Finally, let me leave this place, as you would expect, by recognising the various contributions of others like myself who plan to leave, and one in particular who plans to stay. In doing so, I recognise that no single person or political party has a monopoly of wisdom. Now, my list is a fairly random list that recognises that everyone who shares our belief in democracy, which is essentially an understanding that we can be dismissed from office or denied office by the decisions of the people we represent, has the opportunity to make a contribution of value. Looking at the Tory benches, I greatly miss Alec Johnson and Alec Ferguson, who departed untimely before their time. Great friends of me and great friends of Parliament. One of my cousins was a Conservative councillor. Yes, it's time for admissions. Dr. Sandy Patterson was his name, and being a GP was his game. To my right, Mary Fee has been both radical in her ideas while being moderate and engaging in her expression of them. I served under her on the subcommittee on policing and admired how she conducted herself in that role. Her colleague, David Stewart, has distinguished himself to very good effect on the subject of road safety, and I can't imagine an occasion when I disagreed with anything he had to say on that. So thank you to you both. My niece, Morag, a music teacher, is chair of her local Labour Party in Kent. John Finney on the Green benches has been a reasoned and reasonable voice for Green issues, and I've rarely disagreed with him on matters of principle. Now, here's the one you don't expect, and I'm sorry it's not you, Liam MacArthur. It is Mike Rumbles. He has contributed much in his time here, and he's a man of focus and principle, and one whose frustration I felt when I gave him a one-word answer on AWPR funding to an exceptionally lengthy question that I was given as Minister from him. Ministers have the occasional licence to misbehave. John Swinney, who was sitting beside me, muttered, "Never do that again, Stewart." My great-uncle, Sir Alexander Stewart Stevenson, was Liberal Lord Provost of Edinburgh and has 6 streets named after him. He was responsible for the erection of the statues to William Wallace and Robert the Bruce that you pass between as you go into Edinburgh Castle, but he had rather more substantial achievements. Now, as a genealogist of some 60 years standing, I frequently referred to my relatives, and why should today be any different? My father's cousin, Lord James Stevenson, was, like me, a politician, a crossbencher in the House of Lords, appointed by Ramsay MacDonald as a reward for delivering the Empire exhibition in 1924, which incidentally provided England with its national football stadium at Wembley. They only got it because of the actions of a Scotsman from Kilmarnock. I reveal that his coat of arms was supported by squirrels rampant and has the motto beneath the shield, "Carry on." Is it the end of my family connection to elected politics? No, we shall carry on. I do, of course, leave a very different Parliament from the one I joined in 2001. I've just looked at my statistics, and I will, by the end of this session, have attended 110 virtual committee meetings. That's how much things have changed. It's now time for me to leave, Presiding Officer, and another MSP and me to come out together. I hand my political baton to my cousin, a person with whom I share 11 centimorgans of DNA, a person who's already a government minister and a respected and energetic local member of Parliament. So good luck in the election, Minister. With a final ping of my Galluses that I know she admires so much, I now hand my share of family responsibility for political service to a fellow admirer of such luridity, my cousin, Jenny Gilruth.